The climate crisis isn't some far-off thing anymore. It's changing our cities, our homes right now.
Absolutely. And architecture, I mean, the actual buildings we live and work in, it's right there on the front lines.
Yeah, it demands a real shift, a big rethink towards um, resilience and sustainability.
That's the core of it.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really focusing on those two ideas: climate resilience and sustainability in architecture.
Yeah, what do they actually mean in practice?
Exactly. Why are they so crucial now, and what are the key changes happening? Our aim is for you to get a really solid grasp of the main ideas driving this whole transformation.
And we're drawing this from some really interesting planning notes today.
Right. Notes for the first episode of a new podcast, Architectural Lens, from the Aslancreates channel. They really map out the essentials.
Okay, so let's dig in. Those architectural lens notes, they start by setting out the basics, definitions.
Good place to start. Resilience first.
Yeah. So climate resilience in architecture. It's essentially about designing and building structures, even whole communities, so they can handle these climate hazards.
Like floods, heat waves, big storms.
Uh-huh.
Things we're seeing more of.
Exactly. But it's not just about withstanding the hit. It's also crucially about being able to recover and recover quickly, bouncing back.
Okay, so it's toughness plus recovery.
Yeah.
Got it. And where does sustainability fit? How does that differ?
Well, sustainability, according to these notes, is more about minimizing the negative environmental footprint of a building across its entire life.
Its whole life.
Yeah, right from, sourcing the materials, thinking about the carbon embedded in them through its energy use day to day, water use, all the way to how it's eventually demolished or repurposed. It's that cradle to grave thinking.
It really sounds like they overlap quite a bit then. The notes mention they're interconnected.
They really are. It's quite fascinating. Often something you do for resilience also ticks a box for sustainability and vice versa.
Can you give an example? From the notes, maybe.
Sure. The notes bring up green roofs, planting on rooftops.
Right, seen those.
Well, they help insulate the building, which cuts down on energy needed for heating and cooling. That's sustainability.
Okay.
But they also soak up rainwater, which eases the load on city drainage systems during heavy downpours. That's resilience.
I see. That's a great illustration. So, the planning notes also tackle the why now questions, don't they? The urgency.
Yes, and that's critical. The key driver highlighted is just the sheer increase in both the frequency and the intensity of these climate events.
It's not theoretical anymore.
Not at all. We're seeing direct impacts on buildings, on infrastructure, real damage, real costs. Think about flooding, storm damage repairs, or even just the health risks in poorly designed buildings during heat waves. It affects people directly.
And there's the long-term cost of not being sustainable too, right? The notes mention that.
Exactly. Building practices historically have been huge contributors to greenhouse gases. It fuels the very problem we're trying to adapt to. It's a bit of a vicious cycle. And, resources aren't infinite. Sustainable building is also just about being smarter, more efficient with materials and energy for the long run, plus an ethical angle the notes touch on.
Right, responsibility.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got resilience and sustainability and the why urgency in long-term sense. What about the how? Where are these principles actually being applied? What areas do the architectural lens notes highlight?
They point to a few key areas. For sustainability, a big focus is energy efficiency, designing buildings that just sip energy.
How?
Things like orienting the building smartly to use natural light and airflow, super insulating walls and roofs, high-performance windows, that sort of thing.
And materials too, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. The notes stress using sustainable materials, maybe locally sourced timber, materials with high recycled content, things with a lower overall environmental impact.
Makes sense. And on the resilience side, what strategies are mentioned?
Well, for resilience, the architectural lens plan points to some pretty practical things, like simply building higher in flood zones. Seems obvious, but crucial. Yeah. Designing structures to handle stronger winds, especially near coasts. Incorporating backup power is another one, given how grids can be vulnerable.
And materials again.
Yes, choosing materials that are inherently tougher or more water resistant if flooding is a risk, durability becomes key.
The notes also hinted at innovation, new tech.
Right, and that's moving fast. Think about smart building systems tech that automatically tweaks heating, cooling, lighting based on weather forecasts or occupancy.
Clever.
Or even developing entirely new materials engineered for specific climate threats. It's a really dynamic field.
Okay, so let's quickly pull that together based on this architectural lens groundwork. Climate resilience, Buildings that can take a hit from climate events and bounce back.
Right.
Sustainability, minimizing environmental harm across a building's entire lifespan.
Cradle to grave.
And they're not separate goals, they often work together. And the urgency is driven by the very real, very current impacts of climate change.
Couldn't have put it better. And we see action in energy efficiency, material choices, site-specific design like flood-proofing, and new technologies coming online.
So here's something for you listening to consider. Take a look at the buildings you use every day. Your home, your workplace, the shops you visit.
How well do you think they're actually set up to handle our changing climate? And maybe more importantly, what role can design really play in creating a future that's both safer and genuinely sustainable for all of us?